Welcome to the garden question and answer video that I do on Sundays. This one is in a slightly different location here. This is the Queen's Garden at the King and Queen's Palace here in the Netherlands. It's kind of mind-blowing that that's where we're standing right now, honestly. But this is the Queen's Garden. On the other side is the King's Garden. This is all better boxwood. This is Babylon Beauty forming these shapes, and we visited with the breeder for Babylon Beauty on this trip. The breeder for better boxwood on this trip yesterday, actually, with our friend Peter Van Ryzen. He'll be in a video, and both of them will be in upcoming videos, actually, about better boxwoods. This is Babylon Beauty they've used to create these. A lot of the gardens of Europe that have lost boxwoods from boxwood blight have been replacing them. They tried to replace them with various things over the years, and Peter and I will talk about that in a video coming up. But this is, reinstallation of boxwoods into these formal English garden spaces, and then pollinator plants going in there with them. It's kind of this is kind of that evolution that we're seeing in gardens across the world, where the formal being integrated with other types of gardening and introducing kids to pollinator gardens and that kind of thing. And you can do that even within a formal garden like this is here at the Palace. But remember, the rest of August here, the weekly garden planner is $50 off. The code is up on the screen here for the weekly garden planner. I've added several things to it recently, and I think as you're watching this, you'll have about 2 more weeks to take advantage, week and a half or something, to take advantage of the $50 off. And some of the t-shirts are on sale as well over on the website. If you head over to the website, HortTube.com. Let's jump into some questions. This one will be a little bit shorter than our normal question and answer video. We've got questions pulled aside from other videos, and more coming once we're settled back home. We'll back to making longer ones again. Somebody saw something that ran behind me last week in question and answer video that looked like a mouse maybe. We have chipmunks, and you'll occasionally see a chipmunk in the background, and we occasionally get that in the video. I think I saw something running across the things scurrying in the background are typically chipmunks in our garden. They don't really do any damage out in the garden, and Steph loves them. So we don't mess with the chipmunks. They're the least destructive of the things that are occupied. The rabbits. I would love to ship someplace else. But this person asked when to transplant plants in Zone 8A, Alabama. They want to do some root pruning first. So they want to follow my operation of just cutting the roots on the plant and then letting it stay in place for a month or two and then transplanting it. I would wait to do the root pruning until the nighttime temperatures are cooling off. So Zone 8A in Alabama is probably northern Alabama, so you're probably mid-September. You could probably root prune them and get away with that, unless it's super, super dry. Be careful, make sure that irrigate it well. Make sure that area is staying moist. I don't go out there on the driest day of September, because September can be pretty dry, and go root prune the thing, because leaves are going to drop off their plants really quickly if that happens. But root prune them under good conditions, when the nighttime temperatures are cooler, and then wait till November or something to actually move them. So somebody has seed pods on their Camellia sasanqua. They wanted to know if they'd be true to the mother plant. So very unlikely. If you've actually have seeds form on your Camellia, it was likely crossed with another Camellia. Most Camellia species, I actually don't know this about sasanqua, but most Camellia species are self-incompatible. It means that the flower has basically a mechanism by which it doesn't want to be pollinated. It self-pollinated. It wants to be crossed with another one to create some seedling diversity out in the world and not have a clone of itself. So in all likelihood, it's worth, if you wanted to collect those seeds, look up how to do it. You can germinate them, see what they're going to be, because they're likely two sasanquas, another sasanqua close by, pollinated. I don't know what color that one was or anything like that, but that's pretty typical of camellias and how they cross one another. Let's see. This person has red bud and a Japanese maple that were terribly underwatered, lost about 60% of their leaves. Should they water, and what to expect? So be careful watering them at this point. You want to water them. I'm not saying don't let them continue just to be bare, completely dry, but also be careful. Remember, I've talked about this a lot. If a plant loses half its leaves down at the bottom because it got dry, it's kind of put itself back in balance a little bit. It's kind of made itself where now, without having to support all those leaves, it doesn't need all that water. So yes, water, keep it moist but not wet. Be careful not to, as a result of underwatering, it's very easy then to go panic water things and water till you kill it. So be careful with that. The plant adjusted. Now just do normal watering, and what to expect is, I think next spring, your red buds and Japanese maples go to sleep in the winter. When they wake up next spring, they'll likely be fine. It's possible you could lose a limb here or there, but you won't know until then. But be careful not to love them to death after having underloved them before, okay? Number 4, their young plants are burning in the sun. Will they get better in the future? Yes. This is pretty much true across the board. Lots of plants will adapt in later years. Talking about red buds, I had a forest pansy red bud at the old house, and I had it in full sun in my front garden. And for years and years and years, until it was able to shade its own roots a little bit, it would look pretty rough by the end of summer every year, having been burnt. But over time, it was shading its own roots. The area had been mulched long enough, the soil had improved, and it was, when I left that house, kept its purple foliage pretty much throughout the entire summer. So it had really adapted over time. So yes, plants can adapt to it more. Again, a lot of times it's not about the top of the plant. It's about the fact that the plants are spaced so far apart that, they're drying out much easier. The roots are getting hotter. It's just not the way plants grow in nature. Like this has to be irrigated a lot, a little more, because the plants there's bare ground around them, So, you're going to irrigate a little bit when things are spaced a little bit more. So keep that in mind as your new plantings go in. Now these things are starting to shade themselves on the roots a little bit. So they're protecting one another a little bit more. But initially, when they're not, sometimes they'll take a little bit more water just to keep the soil cool, and the amount of water they're going to lose out of the top of the plant. Okay, let's see. Number 5. This person... Japanese maples this was in the UK. Japanese maples were looking rough in a nursery. They wonder if they should still buy them. We've seen that everywhere. We've been in the Netherlands for a week now or something, probably a week stuff. And we've seen it all over the Netherlands, even at nurseries. It's been super hot, and it's really difficult, especially because, typically we think about them as if it's gonna be 90 degrees consistently, we would think about them as part shade plants. In the UK, you can probably grow, most of the UK, you can probably grow them in a little bit more sun. But you've had a lot of 90-degree days Fahrenheit this summer. So you've had the kind of weather we have in the southeast normally, but where we would have put them in a little bit of shade. So they're sitting out in a garden center, sitting out in a nursery. There's no way to water them enough in this kind of heat in full sun to get them to not be crispy looking at this point. So I'm probably not going to shy away with it as long as the limbs are pliable and they look pretty good, and it's the plant you want and it's the price you want to pay. I'd probably still grab it even if it's looking a little rough at the end of summer. It's going to go to sleep in 6 weeks anyway, or 8 weeks anyway. Okay, so this was a difficult, somebody just said how to choose between New Gen and better boxwood in a question, and here's the better boxwood, happens to be standing behind me. I know the owner of New Gen boxwood very well as well, and he's super nice person. Those plants are great, and they're widely available. But I will say, if you are in an area that has blight, has had experience with boxwood blight, in a lot of the northern part of the U.S. and a lot of Europe, these are scientifically proven to be blight resistant, and we saw the entire process in a visit. It was kind of mind-blowing. I mean, I had said it in a couple videos, talking about them in our garden, and I had heard it from, the U.S. brand for better boxwood, the people who own that, and I had heard it. But then we sat down at a desk yesterday, and we went through what the actual process was of and Steph is shaking her head. I don't know when I sat down at that desk that I was going to learn as much as I learned about boxwoods and just all the species. He literally went through, and this started with going back to all of the species of boxwood on the planet and where they go in, they're basically creating a chart of all of the different genetics of boxwoods from Asia, from Europe, from all over the globe. and then starting from there. That's how far back in time this went to start creating something that could actually be called scientifically blight resistant. So that's what I'll say. If you're in an area with boxwood blight and you're concerned about boxwood blight, these are for you. And I was totally convinced yesterday. It was why I thought you think you know something about something, and then you sit down with somebody who really, is the author of, I've got literally in my backpack right now, I've got his Buxus book, on boxwoods from 25 years ago, and he's rewriting it now. Super, super interesting. Okay, let's see. Somebody asked about my opinion of Miss Schiller's Delight Viburnum. So I really like that one. It's very similar to Ralston's Hardy. So it's a dwarf obovatum. It was selected by a nurseryman down in Florida, and he named it Miss Schiller's Delight after Schilling's Yopon holly, which is a similar habit. So dwarf Yopon holly, that was a named variety called Schilling's, that's been around forever. But he kind of took that name and put it on this one because they look similar in the landscape, but it's a little dwarf Viburnum obovatum, which is native to the southeast, extremely long bloomed, great for pollinators, great for birds, and perfect little boxwood-like growth habit, basically, on that plant. So yeah, I like that plant a lot. If you can't find Ralston's Hardy, Miss Schiller's Delight would be one that you could definitely replace it with. So somebody asked if when they're selecting fruit trees, do chill hours matter? They're going to the box store or garden center and they see the same 30 varieties of fruit everywhere you go, and that's true kind of across the country. Do chill hours matter? Chill hours are the number of hours in the wintertime that you're below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. So it doesn't have to be below freezing, but there has to be a certain amount of time that it's below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. What are you pointing at?
Oh, the fruit trees are espalier.
Okay, and there's lots of fruit trees espaliered to the wall back here as I'm talking about this. So yes, it does matter. Most apples, if you're asking me about apples, are between 600 and 1,000 hours of chill hours, but there are ones that need less than that. They're bred for southern growers, so there is some breeding around that. You may look up the exact variety that you're looking at, see how many chill hours it needs, and then look at your area and see how many chill hours you get in your area. So Raleigh typically gets around 400 to 600 chill hours on average. Winter to winter, I may be a little off on that, but something like that. So I could look for something that was a slightly lower chill hour variety. Here's the problem though, really at the end of the day. Every place on the globe has been tried for apples and pears and all these fruits and peaches and cherries. They've all been tried, and the places that they've ended up are the places that you can grow them well. So if you go to the Columbia River Gorge between Oregon and Washington and see all the apple trees on the Washington side, the wind moves through that gorge all the time and keeps frost from settling on the flowers, okay? Prevents the flowers from being damaged by frost every year, right? So, or you go up to upstate New York or around Lake Ontario and see all the apples, or in the foothills of the mountain Appalachia in North Carolina, and you see apples. Where you see apple orchards are the places that apples can grow. Trust me, they were tried everywhere else. And the reason that they're not everywhere else is because of some areas get frost late, where they'll trick the plant into leafing out or flowering, and then frost will hit them. And that's really Raleigh's forever problem. It's amazing how we have very few years where we're not under the threat of some sort of late frost or freeze after the plants have woken up. And so that's part of the reason. Obviously there's soil related issues and things like that too that could prevent you from growing them. But if you're not in an area where you see that type of activity, likely some of those plants are going to be difficult in your area anyway. I'm just throwing that out there, that it's been tried. Trust me, very industrious farmers for the last 300, 400, 500, 600 years have tried all over the globe to grow apples everywhere, and those types of things that we love to eat. Let's see. Best time to transplant perennials in Zone 9A, Alabama. So, for perennials that don't mind, that don't have a tendency to die having wet feet in the wintertime, which is, I would avoid grasses and some things that need sharp drainage in the wintertime, dividing them in the fall. Everything else, though, you could divide in the the fall after they've gone dormant, where you can still see the foliage a little bit. So hosta, after they get knocked back, but you can still see where the leaves are, it's really the best time to divide them or move them, because you can still see where they are and not damage them. You can do this all the way through early spring till they're waking up. But if you do that, you will need to mark them when they go to sleep, so you know where they actually are, so you're not just digging all over the place and breaking your perennials apart with a shovel by accident. So if you're going to do it in the fall, it's easiest because, again, you can see where this perennial dies to the ground. That's I'm pointing at a marigold there, but you can see where a perennial dies to the ground in the fall. It's easy to dig it up, right? This will be easy to find as it's been killed back to the ground. It'll be much harder to find in March or April, right? But so mark it if you're going to do it later. But anytime they're dormant, really is fine. Again, I wouldn't do the things that want good drainage during the winter time. In the fall, I'd wait to do those in the spring. That would include grasses for me, or late winter. Let's see. This person has Loropetalum and Formosa azaleas. They want to know when to dig them up and move them. So I'm assuming you're in the southeast if you've got Loropetalum and you've got Formosa azaleas. Formosa azaleas are big leaves, big flowers, old-fashioned azaleas that get quite big. So I'm getting a lot of questions about when to start doing activity in the garden. This is always the case. In the late winter, I'm getting, when should I start my seeds? And it's 2 months early. And then in the late summer, I get, when can I start on my turf renovation and moving my plants and dividing my perennials, because everybody's ready to get back out there again after the heat. So again, when the nighttime temperatures are consistently cool again, and the soil needs to be moist. So fall can be very dry for a lot of people. So make sure that you re-wet that area, make sure they're in good shape, and then dig them out once the nighttime temperatures are consistently cool. Most of the time that's October, before that happens. Okay, I got a really good question. I've got like 3 more here. I'm gonna mention that Stephanie's birthday was on this trip. I did post it over on Instagram, and if you haven't followed me on Instagram, followed us on Instagram ever, we do post a lot of the photos that we've met the Burning Love Lakotha we grower, and we've met, Steph's going like this because it's one of our favorite plants, the Better Boxwood breeder. We've seen Encore Azaleas in Europe. What's that?
We're going to meet Butterfly Candy.
We're going to meet the Butterfly Candy breeder today, actually, after we're here at the Palace. So a lot of that can be followed over on Instagram. You're going to see content on it later too, when we get around to editing those videos. But this person asked, so 3 more questions here. One person asked about, they understood how healthy plants could kind of prevent fungal attacks on things, but they didn't understand how it prevent insect related issues. They made the comparison though, that like if they were healthy and they went out in the ocean, a shark could still eat them. And that's true of plants too. If a dinosaur or a giraffe, comes around, or some, what I mean, some giant herbivore comes around, these plants, or the health of this plant is not going to prevent it from being eaten. Okay, so that's the case in the plant kingdom as well. If a Brontosaurus or an elephant comes along, all of these plants are definitely in jeopardy from that. So same thing in the plant kingdom as in the human kingdom. You will not outrun a shark, no matter how healthy you are. But when we get down to the insect level, these plants, so one of the things about when you'll see more insect damage in the late summer is the plants are really, so it's 94 degrees here in the Netherlands. We brought Raleigh's weather to the Netherlands. I don't know how we did this. We've come on the 3 hottest days of the summer here. But when these plants are under this kind of stress in the summertime, typically, let's say it's 75 degrees outside, that's when these plants are at their most efficient, where they can use the sun's energy, basically as solar panels, to create sugars, photosynthesis, we know photosynthesis, and they're able to breathe through those stomata, get oxygen in and carbon dioxide out, right? This is the function. That's where they function really well. And when they're functioning at that high level, they can produce all sorts of chemicals to resist insect related things. There's also sugars that they produce that can actually really damage some of those insects as well and hurt those insects that eat healthy, super healthy plants. There's a video on this on the Learn to Garden video series. If you own the Learn to Garden video series, I actually made a video on a bricks reading, which is the sugar content in the leaves. This is actually measurable. I have a tool called a refractometer at the house. I can take this leaf and I can take the juice out of this leaf and I can actually measure how much sugar that plant is producing. And I'm dumbing this down just a hair, just, you know, to not have a 30-minute topic on it, but there is a video in the Learn to Garden video series about this where I talked about, you know, when these plants are at their absolute peak performance, they're able to resist pretty much most insect attacks that they're familiar with. Obviously, we can have unfamiliar insects like Japanese beetles and things like that that are foreign to that space, can have a negative impact on them. But the native run-of-the-mill spider mite, aphid, you know, whatever, whatever other insects, mealybugs type of insects, they're able to fight those off. Otherwise, the insects would just overrun the plant kingdom, right? The problem is, though, when you throw in a 94-degree day, all of a sudden that plant, it shifts from producing energy to a survival mode, and it opens its stomata a little more, and it blows a little water out of those stomata to do what I've talked about, evaporative cooling, to keep it cool around the plant. When it shifts to some of those survival things, that's when those sugars drop a bit, those defenses drop a bit, and we see plants attacked a little bit more. That's why it's so important in these late summer months to make sure you're maintaining mulch and moisture and making sure the defenses, what you can do, the little bit that humans are able to help them with, that we're helping them with it. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But if you own the Learn to Garden video series, there is a video on there about refractometer, a tool that you can use for this. Let's see. Is there any advantage to letting soil rest after you dig something out of the ground? There probably would be some advantage if it was like 2 years, you know, to let roots break down and that kind of thing and just keep it covered in mulch or wood chips until then. But this person was asking like 2 weeks, probably not. If it's 2 weeks, I'm just gonna go ahead and dig one thing out, pop something else in the ground, get the roots as much as possible out of the ground from the other thing. And those things, that can go on the recycle bin or whatever. And the last question for this week is not actually a question, but I talked about the longleaf forest that occupied basically Norfolk, Virginia down to East Texas last week, and somebody came in with the old North State toast. The first phrase from that, and I thought I would read that real quick, because this is like the official poem or a toast that we call North Carolina the old North State, and we have a toast for it, and it starts with, "Here's to the land of the longleaf pine, the summer land where the sun doth shine, where the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. Here's to down home the old North State." So that's how our actual state poem, our state toast starts. It's all about the longleaf pine. So it's kind of a beautiful thing that it's re-emerging as in its value and in its tradition to the Southeast United States as we travel in the Southeast United States. And we're traveling a lot. As you can see right now, this European trip has been very eye-opening. The nurseries here and the people here are unbelievably nice. The people in horticulture are truly amazing people. We stayed at a home of somebody we had met for 5 minutes in the United States, maybe 10 minutes in the United States 2 years ago, in a garden in the United States, and stayed in contact with and stayed in their house the other night. So just absolutely an amazing people in horticulture, and it's true throughout the entire world. Plants make nice people, or nice people find plants. I don't know which it is. You can tell us down below. Ask questions for next week's question and answer video. We'd love to get lots of questions as we're getting home, so that we can really help some. I know this has been a kind of a tough summer for a lot of people around the globe, and various flooding and heat related things and that kind of thing. So we'd love to get questions around those types of topics, and always let us know what's going on in your garden. And lastly, definitely make sure you keep watching, because the video content from the Netherlands and from Belgium and from Iceland are going to be coming up in video content over the next few weeks. Thanks for watching.